So we've cleaned the outside of the bike, but what about the cables? Because essentially that's what operates the brakes and gears. Very important. And probably hasn't been touched for longer than the outside of the bike. So what we need to do is we need to strip the cables out and then give them a clean. Possibly replace them if they're no good. For that we're going to need some GT85, another rag, fairly clean rag, pliers or water pump pliers, something to grab the cable with, Allen key. These are cable ferrules, they'll go on the end, you'll crimp those on the end to stop the wire fraying out. Then this is a special type of grease, I'll post a link in the description. It's sort of a bluey colour, and that stuff will run that down the cable. And finally we've got some cable cutters. We may need these. These are a brilliant bit of kit. If you're ever fixing cables or cable housings, you need to cut them to length. You want to get yourself the proper job. Don't do it with pliers, that crushes them. These things are designed specifically to cut very cleanly. They are expensive, probably £50 or more, but I've not replaced them in 20 years and they still cut fine. So definitely get some of those. Those are Shimano. Right, I leave that over long because as I find as we take these in and out all the time, they tend to fray the cable, and sometimes it helps to have it longer so I can cut a bit more off. So you might as well, you could pull that, you could crush that and pull it off, but might as well just cut it off. Okay, so that's giving it a nice clean cut, and that'll allow it to pull through the cable housing easier. So this is going to be a 5mm. Then we've got to get this housing off here, but then we have to get the cable end out of here. So obviously this applies if you want to change the cable as well as cleaning it. So I'm going to show you how to do that now as well. So you've got to get it out of that little clip there. The easiest way to do that is to see here, there's a little notch, and there's also a corresponding notch in this part here. You have to rotate them till they line up. Okay, and then there's also a notch under here in this part. So you line them all three up. And I can't do it whilst, there we go. Okay, that's out of there now. And then when you pull that back, you can pull that out of there. So now we have our cable free, and we're going to look at cleaning that. Now I'm going to get my inner cable and my GT85 in a straw, and just make sure that is properly, that end's got a bit mangled. Let's do it at the other end. Jam that in there, and then you'll see when I spray it, it should come out the other end. There we go. So that's as good as you're going to get on that. Eventually you might have to chuck this, but alright, so that's that clean. So now we can put our grease on. It's going to be easier if we hook it in here first. So let's put that in there. This is your adjuster for the brake. Can give you some, you can tighten up the cable if it's stretched. Now it's secured in there. I've now got my blue grease, whatever it's called. I'll post a link in the description what it is. And then it's going to smooth that all the way down the cable to the end. There's a bit of a kink there. That's probably where the bolt was holding it. So I'm trying to straighten it out. It will go in the housing easier. Okay, Now we've got to carefully thread that through. Sometimes I twist it in the direction of the wire thread, the cable thread rather, just so I don't fray up the cables. You can feel it if it binds. Don't push it, just twist it. It's alright if you've got a new piece of cable housing, but fit it in like that. Now, let's come out the other end. See? So now we can pull it into there. And then we're going to thread it through and we're back where we started. So now we need to fix that back onto the brake. There's a little washer there as such, or a little plate with a little hook on it. Pass it through there, just like any other brake cable. And then I'm doing it hand tight, pulling it hand tight. Do that up. And then we can wrap that in a little loop. And crimp a little cable ferrule on the end. So crimp a cable ferrule on the end, like so. And what you use that. That's what that little notch is for there. The bottom to crush it on the cable. Okay, and that is good to go. And I'll show you in one of my other videos how we can adjust these. These are brilliant brakes, mechanical Avid BB7 brakes. I'll show you how to adjust those in another video. Right, we have to do the same with the rear derailleur, front derailleur and the other brake. So I'm just going to start off with this one. Again, it's got that clamp there, needs to be released. And we need to remove that ferrule. You can't really save these, I've tried before. It ain't worth it. Okay. Can be recycled, you know. I'll take it down the dump. Okay. Pull that cable out. And I'll show you up the front what we've got to do. And my right shifter here is what controls the rear derailleur. And if you see there's a screw. It's just a little plastic screw, but that needs to come out, otherwise you can't get the cable out. So take that out, keep it safe, not easy to get hold of. So I'm going to back that cable housing out of there. And then I can push. What you have to do is we have to release that cable off to the highest gear, and then that'll get in the right position. You can push that through. Might need some grips on this. Just to point out, there's the cable end, right? That's the cut end. That's the one you put the ferrule on. And this one is the one that's got the nipple on it. That's the standard gear cable nipple for a mountain bike or a road bike. Whereas the brake one is fatter and rounder, which you saw previously. So we're going to do the same thing again. Get a bit of the old pink magic. It's quite rusty down here actually. Let's concentrate on the end. The rest of it looks really clean. I must have changed this cable fairly recently. So pull that cable out of the barrel adjuster, out of my shifter, and then the easiest thing to clean this out is to take that off, because the hole in the cap is too small. Again, we get our GT85. Now, I've got a little trick. If you can't get that in, I'll be back. Ta-da! It's my sewing needle. That's a big old prick. It is a bradawl. So just wiggle that in there, open up the hole, and we will have no problem whatsoever. Very unprofessional, wasn't it? I didn't put it in the kit list that you're supposed to get together. What if you turned up, you got everything together and you didn't have that? Okay. And you can hear that, that's coming out the other end. I promise you, it's coming out the other end of that cable housing. Okay, let's put a bit of the old blue lightning on. Bit of the old... Why do builders do that? Why do they make up names for stuff that already have names? Yeah, there's a bit of muck in it. Yeah, stick a bit of muck in there. Do you know any things that are called muck on in the building trade? It isn't muck. There's a proper name for it. It's like, oh yeah, I'll cut it on the chop saw or the drop saw. Engineers made these things, right? Do you think an engineer didn't design this and build this in a factory or an office somewhere? You know what it's called? A miter saw. Why? Because it cuts miters. It ain't a chop saw and it ain't a drop saw. I don't know, I'm being anal about this, but 10 different names for the same thing is just too much. Okay, that's done. Which means to say I should actually know what this blue stuff's called, and I will post a link in the description. So we need to thread the needle, thread the cable, back from whence it came. Get a little poke it around there, a little poke in there, back in the hole, and you will find that it will line up in, there's another internal hole in a cam inside there. Probably doesn't help, this cable's bent, so try and straighten it out a bit if you can without kinking it. Kinky, we like a bit kinky, but not in this case. No kinky, no inserty. Or kinky inserty. Ah, I've done it now, haven't I? No, I didn't. Okay, I thought I'd frayed the end of the cable. So Jesus Christ, it's like threading a very fine cable into a small hole. Okay, that's gone in, but it doesn't want to come out the other side, so I'm going to give it a bit of a twist. It helps to get the grips on it. This is a brand new cable, it would go through like nobody's business, but I know this cable's not that old, so I don't want to change it. It just inevitably gets bent. Let's try and wiggle it just a little bit. Come on, baby. Just keep poking around in there. It will go. Not in my lifetime. I'm not going to bore you with this. You know what? I found that if I cursed at it enough, it would go through. It's called the pummel and the wiggle and the downward press. You should watch that. Leslie Nielsen. How to play golf or something like that. Brilliant, brilliant, funny. Really funny. If you play golf, watch that film. I think it's a film, like a short film or something. Anyway, that's in. Okay, so now we need to thread it back through the cap. That's what I would advise. Now the reason I do this with used cables is because most likely that's what you're going to do, and I'm going to try and encourage you to reuse cables where there's still plenty of life left in them. You know, people throw away things too easily these days. So yeah, my channel was not about showing you a pristine cable that I bought just for the purposes of television. No. So you see there, it's a bit of an odd shape. That's because obviously it's been cramped in the clamp. So just try and gently, don't kink it, just gently straighten it out as much as you possibly can. It will make your life a whole lot easier. Okay, that should be okay. Now what I would recommend is you thread this on the cap, gear cable cap. They're different for gears and brakes, and twist it as it goes on so you don't fray the cable. Always twist, and then what you can do is grab the end of your actual cable that you're going to poke it down, and again just be very gentle with this because it can catch, and then you fray the cable and then you're up a creek without the proverbial paddle. See right there, it's just binding on that where it got crushed, where the cable got crushed. But just tease it in 5mm at a time. It's always, sometimes it's just always going to drag on that crushed bit of cable, but if you're just patient, sometimes you have to use grips or pliers to do this. But that's what I'm going to do because otherwise it's going to be here forever. Obviously once it gets out the other end it's dead easy, but a little bit of patience. It's through the other end now, so I'm just going to pull it. If you put that cap on there, it would have made it almost impossible to get the cable through. So I'm going to stick that in there. Pull the cable through the other end. Just pull the cable through the last little bit. It's a bit stiff, but there we go, it's through. Need to pass it through the barrel adjuster. So thread that cable through the hole again, and then it needs to go through this clamp. And job's a good one, nearly. It doesn't have to be pulled super tight, but just hold it in position whilst you're doing your, maybe get a bit of leverage on it. There we go. Just a little bit of pressure, because everything should have been set up from before. There we go. Okay, do a little loop-de-loop. The reason we do a loop-de-loop is so it doesn't get caught in the chain, and we allow ourselves a bit of extra cable. And then finally we just got to crimp our ferrule on the end. Okay, and that's that done. Okay, so we just got to do the front derailleur, same thing, and the rear brake. I've shown you how to detach the cables from there and clean them. Do that and you're good to go. Those cables will run really smooth. In fact, I think this is the thing you would notice the most difference about when you clean your bike. It is so plush once you do this. Totally worth doing it. Don't do it maybe more than every 3 to 6 months. Not really necessary, but it just feels so much smoother and nicer. Just like buying a brand new bike. Change the cables out if you have to. Recycle the old ones. Whatever you got to do. Just make sure you keep riding, guys. Anyway, hope this was useful, and we'll see you on the next one.